Seems like you guys produce a great wide receiver on a regular basis. Who's next in line?
I think we've got a number of guys that are, have already started to become good players. Tracy Moore, Michael Harrison, Isaiah. It's hard to know till you really count on them. Justin had 20 catches before he won the Bolitnikoff, so it's kind of hard to know for sure. And then how guys react when they're that guy. So, I don't know. It's hard to say. I guess it's hard to say when guys haven't been thrust in that role yet.
Why do you think that's happened at Oklahoma State?
Don't know.
Under all kinds of different offenses.
I don't know. I think you've been fortunate. I think that's probably more of a way of putting it, more than that you knew for sure. But obviously we've had good players here, had good coaches coach them once they get here, and find a way to get them the ball. I think that's one thing. You've got to be able to get them the ball so they can make plays. So, but I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
Do you think Blackman is a really technical from a personal receiver, or do you just think he's a playmaker?
He's gotten a lot better at his route running and his understanding of the game. I don't think he's there yet. I don't think he's hit a ceiling yet, because I think what he does naturally, that I've always said, is hard to coach. What he does naturally, playing strong through the ball, playing physical, he can bend, he's got great body control, his run after catch, all those things are very difficult to teach. But with that being said, so I think he's still got another couple of levels to go once he really gets a chance to work on his ability to day after day train with his route running.
Coach, when you take a look at Stanford's defense, what are some of the concerns they provide for you? Obviously, they're top 25 in the country, do a great job of stopping the run, pass, et cetera, et cetera. What do you see from them on film?
Well, they play hard. I mean, they chase the ball. They're physical. They give you a lot of different looks, try to disrupt your quarterback. I think those are the biggest things. They're well coached. They're rarely out of position. You don't see a lot of balls thrown down the field over their head. The plays that have been made, in space. So our job is to try and get them in space, and their job is to stop us from getting in space. And, so that'll be the challenge.
Coach, talk about this opportunity for OSU, the first BCS opportunity, national spotlight now, what it means to this program.
Well, I'm sure it means a lot to the school itself, the people that are OSU alumni and have been a part of this program for years, and for our players, the work that they've put in. So, it's special for them to be the first. Win the league outright. Go to a BCS game. Play a great opponent like Stanford. So, obviously, it means a lot to a lot of people. It means a lot to our coaching staff. But really to those people that have followed the program for years and, sat through some tough times. So it's, obviously to those people, there's more of a, it's more personal, more personalized.
Obviously, being a pass-first, run-second type of offense going in, you guys changed it up nicely against Oklahoma, surprised them a bit, and it ran for more than you actually threw in that game. Is it possible something may happen like that again in this game where you throw a little bit of a monkey wrench into the mix?
I don't know. It depends on what they decide to do. Part of that, too, in that game was at one point in the game, it was out of hand. So the reality was, okay, you either go for style points or you basically say, if we don't turn the ball over, we're not going to lose this game. Let's find a way to run the ball. And if you look at the stats, a bunch of it came in the second half. We had 100 at half or whatever it was. But the reality was, it just turned out that way. They were playing a lot more three down. They were almost exclusively three down, almost exclusively coverage. So we really don't dictate how much we throw, how much we run. The opponent decides that. So we want to be able to run it in short yardage, goal line, 4 minute, and coming out. That's when we have to be able to run it. Other than that, we don't really decide when we throw it or run it. They decide that. So, and then I guess we do decide some of it, how well, different things are working. But just worked out in that game that the reality was when we came out of Iowa State, we were not going to turn the ball over. Now, we still might have, but I'll be darned if we weren't. The focus was if we felt like we didn't turn it over, we'd win the game. That's the way it's been. We win at Iowa State if we don't turn it over. So
The senior class has been the most successful in OSU history. You've been here only a year and everything, but when you look at some of the seniors, Blackman, of course, a junior, but in all likelihood, he's gone too. You kind of look at them, you look at Whedon, see those guys, know it's their last game. Does that mean anything to you at all? Does it make you sad at all? Those guys are going to be gone?
Yeah, it makes me sad. We scored a lot of points, and they're really good players. Yeah, that makes me sad. I wish it was like the NFL and we could re-up them for a 5-year deal and have them be around for another 5 years. That makes things a lot easier. But, you know, it's sad in one way, but obviously it's what's exciting for those guys is they can say it, but I would doubt to a man that those guys believed when they came that they could win the conference, be just a hair away from playing for it all and playing in the Fiesta Bowl. I'll bet there's no way they believe that. And for them to have that happen to them is unbelievable for them. And there's a lot of people that have a hand in that, not me, but a lot of other people have had a big hand in that. And that's what's special about it. But they will leave here with unbelievable memories. For years to come, they'll be bringing back this team as the first to do this. And that'll just concoct all kinds of memories of being a part of it. And so for them, it's special, but that's the nature of what you do. Guys, you know, graduate, move on, you know, so that's, and we got one left. So
You talk about the Whedon and Luck is kind of as close, I think, college football is going to have to like a Brady versus Manning type of elite quarterback matchup. I mean, you have a lot of elite team matchups in college football. It's not very often you have quarterbacks at that level going head-to-head like that.
Well, I think it's a neat matchup. You know, obviously, we like our guy, they like theirs. They're both very good football players, both deserving of any award they've gotten. So it should be exciting to see that matchup. They go about it a little bit different than we do. So, but I think it's neat when you think about a matchup of really non-running, not that they're not athletic, but so many of the spreads are now going to running quarterbacks. You're talking about they're not a spread team, but you're talking about 2 drop-back quarterbacks, throwing quarterbacks. Pro-style quarterbacks, right. It is. It's a neat matchup.
What's been your impression of Chase Thomas or Stanford linebacker?
Well, again, I think they have a collective group of guys that play off each other. I think as a team, I think they play great team football. They run the ball. They take the time of possession. They're always in positive third downs, give themselves to convert. That way their defense doesn't play a lot of snaps, and they play their rear ends off. They chase the ball, and they don't give up a lot of big plays. That's an unbelievable – they don't turn it over, and they create turnovers. So the reality is that's an unbelievable formula for winning. So that's the way they go about it, and it's been obviously successful for them. And I don't think it's a formula that per se only fits just because they have Andrew Luck. I think that obviously helps it. It helps you be super successful, but the plan that they have and how they're successful is a formula that's from Jones Junior High to the NFL is how you win. So not one particular player. I just think as a defense and then as a staff and as an organization, they do it the right way.
You mentioned their offense helping their defense by not making them play a whole lot of snaps. The only team to beat them the last couple of years is Oregon, and they obviously go really, really fast. Is this a game where you would like your tempo to be about as fast as you guys
I
are
don't know.
comfortable going?
You know, Oregon only ended up getting like 66 snaps. You know, and that sometimes you don't dictate that. We played Baylor, and I think we had like 68 snaps, and we had 49 at half. Sometimes if you get the ball in their end, if you get an explosive play, if you turn it over, if they're converting, then all of a sudden they have the ball a lot more than you'd like. I just think you have to make sure that you're real efficient with the plays that you do have. And then obviously what we do is not what they see every day. So, but just to go fast, as I've always said, if you don't execute, it doesn't help you any. Now, obviously, if you can put yourself in a position where it creates some anxiety and some space and get their players chasing and don't get off the field, then great. But we haven't been just – we've tempoed, but we haven't been a huge tempo team the last few weeks.
Here's a goofy question. Do you ever marvel at the touchdown production 2 years, it's been great. 140
Not really.
some odd touchdowns. When
Not really.
A typical number for Oklahoma State over a 2-year period is 90 to 105. You're coming up on 150 touchdowns.
Well, I think there's a couple things that lend itself to that. One is, I think that the system that Dana Holgerson brought with him and how he evolved it from the mummy leech tree into what is his, and being fortunate to come here with that system already in, that's part one, and then us taking it with what we could have making it ours in Oklahoma State's. The second thing is having really, really good players, and when you've got a great quarterback and great skill guys and a veteran offensive line, I've never really looked at it as that other than I'm surprised when we don't score. So I know that doesn't, I'm not arrogant, it's got nothing to do with me. I just think when you've got a system that allows to create space, you've got really good players and a really good quarterback, and a defense that's created, let's give credit where credit's due, 70-something turnovers over the last 2 years. You cannot put a number on that. And then special team scores and Gilbert as a kick returner, those all add into your touchdowns. Those all add into momentum changers that adds into your production. So it's just been an unbelievable run, the 2 years of offensive personnel, the system that Dana had installed, us kind of taking it and then creating all those turnovers. I think you just can't. It's unbelievable.
Talk about how OSU, you put an OSU stamp on that system. I mean, are you talking about the run game aspect of it primarily?
You mean what we changed?
Mm-hmm.
No.
And Wickline, I think, had a big influence last year on Dana.
No, I think there was a number of guys that have had, again, I think that, obviously the staff that was here last year and Wick that carried over and Coach Meacham and our staff now, but there was a lot of things we tweaked. It was pass game, run game, how we call it, the motion, what personnel. We ended up a little bit more 10 personnel than they had been. Again, there was a lot of things that we changed. The base system was still there, but then how you call it, how you run it, like any system, it's got to become yours. So, but the reality is we have good players. So no matter what the system, I think we could have run what Stanford run has success. I don't know if it would have matched what we'd have done. I don't know if we've got their personnel, but when you've got good players, I think you can run a number of things.
If the staff stays intact, this will be the first time Mike has kept the staff intact since his first year. Can you talk about the value of that kind of continuity? I mean, I would think 80% of college staffs have some sort of turnover, right? Mm-hmm. Isn't it? Or maybe higher.
I don't know.
But just the value of having the same guys in the room when you guys start planning your spring scripts and your schedules.
I think anytime you, whether you have a number of players that come back for the next year or you have your staff stay intact, I think that's a plus, because everybody kind of feeds off each other, so everybody kind of gets to know each other, and you find ways to work better together, and everybody has their quirks. Every coach on our staff has their quirks and the way they work and the way they, so it always works out better if you can keep that. And it helps for recruiting because players know who you're going to recruit and who's going to be their coach. And, and all that's been made possible by Oklahoma State University and their ability to pay our staff and compete with other places to keep coaches. So, when I was here 10 years ago and previous to that, that was not the case. Some places won't do that. They won't compete to keep coaches on your staff. And when you have success, that's anywhere people want to know why, and they want to hire your coaches, and they want to pick at you. And the reality is that, it starts with Mike. This is Mike's job. This is Mike's dream job. He played here. His heart's here. So he says this place can be as good as anywhere in the country. Anytime I've said this before, when coaches won before they left. And so that's not happening. When coaches were here before, they left and took jobs at other programs that were considered, myself included, programs where you could win every game. And that's a big reason why I came back, is one, financially they could compete, and two, was you could compete on the field in every game. So
in about 80 days, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go.
In about 80 days, you're going to start working with new quarterbacks or the returning quarterbacks. I always just kind of conveniently look at JW as Zach Robinson Jr. because of his skill set seems at least similar to Zach's. Is that fair? The running pass aspect of him?
I would think so. He's a guy that has really improved in his throwing. But the things that J-Dub has are things that, not Blackmanish, but he's a leader, he's tough-minded, you know, and he's athletic. And so if he ends up being the guy, then you have to play to that. There's no way around it. That's a bullet that he has, you know, that you're going to have to play to. And that whoever ends up being the quarterback. So whoever that is, you have to play to what their strengths are. And so that's
whoever it is, you go from 28 to 19 or 20 in terms of age.
I never thought about it that way. Thought about starting and not starting, but now when you said age, yeah, it's a little different dynamic in the room when you got younger guys. But that's the norm. We were lucky enough to not have the norm and have an older guy in there, and guys mature as Brandon, and you know, a guy that really helped a lot when I first got here. You know, forget even the physical talents, but the things of just a 3-week transition for spring ball. So.
From Mike Holder on down, Mike Gundy, yourself, other people on staff, there are people at Oklahoma State who have been part of this university for years. How important do you think that's been for the success of the program in terms of knowing the community, knowing recruiting areas, understanding the people in Oklahoma State? To have people at Oklahoma State who have been part of that university, does that make any sense? You know what I'm saying?
No, I think whenever you have people that have been a part of your organization, university for years, I think that helps in a number of ways because they are OSU. When their heart and soul's in it and they've spent more time there, it certainly has more meaning. There's no question. You know, coaches that don't have their heart and soul. We have a heart and soul per year. That's us. Other than Mike, who played here, or Mike Holder, or people that are part of OSU, coaches we're hired servants. 1 year. Next year's the next year. It's the next year. And you don't really know what the future holds. So it's important to you, and you put everything you have into it, but you don't bleed orange as much. That's being honest. You just don't. You haven't gone through what people have gone through. You haven't seen the transition in the facilities and all those things. So it's critical in terms of that.
What number of ways, you said, does it help?
Well, it obviously started with T-Boone.
Yeah.
That son of a gun bled orange.
Yeah.
You know, and his relationship with Mike Holder.
Right.
And Mike Gundy. And all you have to do is go, and we're just talking about football. That's all we're talking about right now, is how that's impacted Oklahoma State University. That you can't go past that. You just can't. I was here when there was steel girders, and it was a rusted-out stadium, and the facilities were average, and there wasn't a reason to come other than the recruiting coach or what we did. Now you turn the corner, and there's a wow. Wow, holy cow, we can have everything to be successful. And so that started with people that put everything they had into their emotional decisions. Believe me, people make emotional decisions will spend. I promise you, you'll spend. I don't have a set of golf clubs worth a darn, but my son has about $2,000 worth of baseball bats. Why is that? I make an emotional decision for him, right? So when you get people to make emotional decisions, you only get that when they're OSU people.
Does it also help in terms of recruiting? You know that you have relationships with high school coaches because you've been part of that community for a long time. You understand where to recruit in Oklahoma, where the good players come from. I mean, that all helps when you've been part of that university for a long time.
I think that helps. It helps with Mike. Yeah. I think the biggest thing is with Mike because Mike's OSU. He's been here now 11 years and counting with the 11 years that head coach and then with Les. But I think there's a comfort in that, and that when you send your kids there, you know, you're dealing with the constant. Because before that wasn't the case. I mean, you think about it. Guys won, they left. Well, who's the coach? Who's there? Who do you deal with on an everyday basis? And so even when things came up with all of us coaches, your players want to know, well, as long as Coach Gundy's there, you're okay.
Right.
You know, as long as that same guy is there. You know, so I think that probably is the biggest thing. And Mike Holder and the people that have changed the face, more than even just whether it's Boone or it's Mike Holder or it's Mike Gundy, who have changed the face of Oklahoma State football.
You're good friends with Mike. You were good friends when you were on staff before. When the job came open, when Dana left,
what was the progression of your interest? I mean, you probably looked at it like a lot of coaches. Oklahoma State's got an offensive coordinator. They know that. Yeah. I mean, how quickly did that kind of reach somewhat of an inferno where you wanted to be here and everything transpired?
Well, I think the tough thing is that you're always a little bit leery of working with a friend. You know, you're good friends with somebody, but you're leery of where that friendship goes when you work together, like any relationship. So you're a little leery of that. I obviously knew they had a lot of good players coming back. I knew that Oklahoma State was different now than it was before. I knew that our situation in Jacksonville was terrible, even though I'd gotten moved to quarterbacks. I mean, that all plays into it, And if not, now it was going to take a friend, because what we did in Jacksonville in the NFL is not, other than a few teams, is not what people are doing in college. Stanford's not the norm. That's the norm in the NFL. The norm in college is what we do, or Oregon now, or some other people are just going to keep going to it. So in order to change who I was, I needed to go do that and to go coach quarterbacks, which I'd been moved to Jacksonville. But and what was next? We weren't in a great situation there. This was a great situation. You get to go work for a friend. You're going to be really good on offense. You get to learn a new offense. You get to make it your own. My wife loves Stillwater. She loved being here. We're good friends with so that was all part of it. But then again, even though you're friends with somebody, he still has to offer you the job. I'm still not sure he's ever offered me the job yet. So he just kind of said, "Do you want to do this or what?" So, and does that mean you're offering me the job or what? So I don't know that. But and like anything, you don't just hire your friends. So obviously he thought I could do the job, and which I'm very appreciative of. I mean, he didn't. That's. Someday I'll have to make those decisions. I think I don't know when that'll be, but someday you'll have to make those staff decisions. So.
You mentioned Stanford. There's a lot of NFL pedigree in the resumes on both sides of the matchup with this offense and their defense. You can see it in their defense. And you mentioned your offense. Both Jason and Derek, who were here earlier, said, well, we don't know Todd personally, but we know him by reputation. And Jason especially said, yeah, you can tell he's morphed this offense, and it's not just what it was, it's what it was plus, is what he called it. And so, again, is this fun? Because, you're dealing with some very sophisticated coverages and stuff that Stanford does. Fun or a challenge?
Yeah, it's fun. I think that's the greatest part about being an offensive coordinator. The fun part is, and the downfall of it, but the highs and lows of trying to game plan somebody and find a way to score points, find a way to dissect someone's personality, and what their background is, and put your guys in the best position they can have to be successful. And then hopefully you have enough bullets to make it work the way you'd like to see it work. But it's exciting to play against guys. Like I said, I've said this before, you can certainly see an NFL flavor with those guys in terms of their approach to their blitzes, to their approach to their 4-down and 3-down, to their approach to third-down coverages, to their approach to not trying to give up big plays, to the way that they, you can certainly see that feel. But again, it's a little bit different because, in college you have to deal with so many different variances of offense. If you see a few more offenses like Denver, like Tebow, then they'll have to deal with some of that. But until then, you're really dealing with either pro style, run the ball with a fullback, or one back, throw it. Once you add in, like in college, you have to deal with, they have to go from Oregon, which is one back run it. Then they got to Washington State, which is throw it. And then you go to play someone who's, USC, who's more conventional. You have a lot more to deal with defensively on the college level than you do in the NFL.
How well is Brandon ready for those coverages he'll see Monday?
He's ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, what they're doing isn't, they're sound in what they do. It's not gimmicky. So I didn't mean to make it sound that. I just mean that the way that they approach it, it's not any different coverages than what we've seen. It's just when they do it, how they get to it. So just those kind of things.
How much of your offense have we seen everything? This is week 13. Have we seen everything?
Oh yeah, there's not, and we're not really going to make anything up. We don't. The reality is that there's certain things that come up that like or dislike you see on film, and then you try to decide, is it something we can do? Is it something we've done? What have we done successful? I mean, the bottom line is we just have to do what we do and do it better. You know, whatever it is that we're going to do in this game that fits into what we've done the whole year is, you know, we've just got to make sure that we've had a great 3 weeks of practice or however many weeks we practice and go out there next year. But we've got everything in. I mean, there's not.
You kind of asked my next question. And so when you got a month to get ready for somebody, you don't add anything, or do you,
no, we have way too much. I mean, we're not adding anything that we haven't really done throughout the year, you know. So that's not an issue. It's just every day that you spend more time, you know, sitting around, you sit there and, God, this would be pretty good. This would be a different way of doing it. Boy, this will be, you know, you just got to be careful of not carrying too much because there's only so many snaps. I don't care whether we go fast or we go slow. I would doubt we're going to have 90 plays. I mean, I would doubt it. I mean, unless we just decided we're going to go 2 minute as fast as we can the whole game and not give them, you know. But I don't see us doing that. So it's, you know, you're only going to have 70 to 80 plays, so you only have so many to call. So we just have to be careful.
Are you concerned at all about the month off, the rust or anything?
I don't know. Not really. I mean, I don't know. I mean, whether we will or won't, we've had good practices. You know, I think the guys have enjoyed going out. You know, so I don't know. You know, we'll see. I mean, again, they have the same issue. They have the same problems going in. So is it a little bit different? Yes. Is it the same they have? Yes. You know, so as long as it's the same for them.
How has Mike evolved as a head coach the last couple of years? The players
can't
he's
really speak to that.
Well, you know him, though, as a person, and
I think the one thing that's probably he might not say this, but maybe the blessing in disguise is that he's not so closely involved with the offense.
Yeah, that's what they said also.
I think when you're not directly involved with it, you can kind of. I think he does a great job with our team, managing our team and their body language and some of the other issues that you don't have to spend the day-to-day operation of game planning. So again, that's a guess since I wasn't here before, but Mike's always had natural leadership qualities, but, you know, I think he also, like I said, you're a lot more fun when you don't have his name's stamped to everything, but on your day-to-day practice operation, he's not as mad when we screw crap up on offense. But I am, and I'm miserable, and those guys hate being around me. Well, you know, he can be the fun, jovial guy, and, you know, so it's a lot easier, which I think is great. You know, you don't let everything else bother you, and like anything, like any job, you know, 7 years down the road, you're a lot more comfortable than you were when you first started, and you just feel the weight. Plus, a lot of the weight gets lifted. He's going to laugh. He might not laugh. He might think, you know, whatever it was 2 or 3 years ago, when we got that big contract, you can be a lot more easier, too, when you get big money. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, holy cow, you're a lot more relaxed then, you know. And when you start winning, you know, your first year, you kick a bunch of guys off, and you're 4-7 or whatever, well, no one's comfortable. I don't care. Win a bunch, and you're like, boy, that's a comfortable guy. He's a natural. Well, not when you're not very good. And then when you're 6-6, you start winning a bunch of games, and you start to believe in what you believe in, and you build kind of the way you are, and then you get a nice big contract, and you're comfortable. He's about to get real comfortable.
How comfortable are you when you first took the job? There was a lot of talk about, hey, Dan Holgson, there was no playbook, there was no nothing. He's writing on a napkin, and does he know this offense? Obviously, you knew a lot about your offense. You have to really, and you guys made your numbers this year. You ever look back on that and say, what were you guys talking about?
Nah, not really. We had good players that knew it. That's really, like I've always said, I'd go to Nebraska and run option if they still had Tommy Frazier. So I mean, you know, when you have good players. Let's be real honest about it. I've always considered myself a good coach, and I'm not arrogant. I'm as humble as they come. Okay, but the reality is, just look at the Colts. Just look at the Bears. When they lose their quarter, they cannot win and they cannot score. Okay, so I am very humble in understanding that when you have good players and you do good things and you coach it and you're structured and your organization is the way you want it, you have a chance to be successful. So they helped me through that. We had 9 returning starters that I came in spring was as easy as it could get being around those guys because they'd already run it. There'd be a few, because like I said, when you don't run no huddle, there's a difference between running 2 minute and a part of your offense. When the no huddle is your whole offense, there's a few things that come up where you're like, dang, I forgot about that. But they carried me through spring. And so then you start to put your stamp on things. And luckily, some of the things that we changed, a lot of the things we changed, had success. We had film of it. The guys bought in. Brandon Whedon bought in. So then they kind of make it their own. Then you make it what our offense is. Just like Dana did with Leach's offense and Leach did with Mummy, you got to make it your own. It's no longer somebody else's, it's yours. Nobody just wakes up in the morning and creates something. Everybody has an influence. There's Dirk Cutter's influence on this. There's everybody I've been around's influence on what we do. So there just is. You're just a victim of who you've been around and where your success has been. And you take it when you've had success. So that's just the way it is. So again, I've been real lucky from that end of it. But then eventually you kind of, there's still some things I'm not so sure of. And we don't have a playbook. I'm still not sure about that. So I don't know, But it seems okay. It won't seem okay if we scored like 20 a game next year, but it seems fine now. So, but again, I like I said, I've been very fortunate. We got good players. It's a good system. It's fairly simple, the way we practice, the way we go about things. There was a lot of things that I really like about it. So I'm very fortunate that I came into a really good situation.
Other than your system, what makes Justin Blackman so good?
Well, as I was saying earlier, what makes him really a really good player is he does all the hard things easy. He's tough-minded. His run after catch, his ability to bend, his ability to play strong through the ball, his ability to fight through, like I said, tough-mindedness. So that's what makes him, because you can polish up the other things, but not if someone isn't strong through the ball, can't judge it down the field, isn't mentally tough, can't bend, his little ankle stiff. Those kind of things are hard to teach. You can work your rear end off at it, and you can get better at it, but it's hard. So now you can polish up that, and he has a will to want to be successful. So all those things rolled into one, he puts himself in position to be a heck of a player.
It's funny. It almost sounds as if you're describing a linebacker as opposed to a wide receiver, that mentality.
And he has that, and again, is he where he wants to be or he, can be? No. Mm-hmm. But, like I said, he does all the things that, that are hard to teach somebody. And I don't mean that as a negative because he's worked awfully hard at the other things. I don't mean to diminish or say that everything was God-given and he hasn't had to work at it. That's not true. But the reality is that he has that edge and all those other components that allow him to be successful.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Has Brandon been different in any way than you anticipated when you got here?
I don't know if I really anticipated how he would be. I didn't really know him. I would say that it was a blessing the way he is, though, just being so even-keeled. There's only been a couple times during the year that he really got frustrated. So, and I had a lot to do with that in the Texas game. It really wasn't him. It was really more me. And but I think that demeanor, and someone says it because of his age, I don't know. Is it because he played minor league baseball and bounced around and never made it and had injuries? And I don't know all that. I just know the way he is. And so, so again, I didn't really have a preconceived notion, so I wouldn't say he's any different.
Whedon seems to have all the physical and mental skills. With your NFL background, are you surprised he's not talked about more as a high first rounder, or is it just?
I don't know. I mean, the reality is he's an awfully good football player. Whether someone decides that because he's 28 or because of what we do, or maybe guys taken previously that were older that maybe didn't turn out like they'd hoped, or, I know this. If you look at previous drafts and quarterbacks that have gone in the first and second rounds and gone high, and they don't consider him in that group, I don't see that. But that, again, I'm biased. I should be biased. He's our quarterback. So that's everywhere anybody coaches. They should be biased to their guy. So whether somebody goes first, third, fifth, and somebody wants some other quarterback than him, I promise you we wouldn't want them over our guy. Now, whether that works out in the NFL, I got no idea, but I wouldn't take their guy over. I don't care who it is in the country. To run what we do, I'll take that guy.
Do you think Whedon and Blackman have a special chemistry on the football field?
Oh, I don't know. Special? I don't know. I mean, really good quarterback and a really good receiver. He throws it to him, he catches it. I guess that's special, you know.
We was talking about they're always thinking the same thing.
I don't know that. That's a bunch of crap. He just says that because he thinks that's what you're supposed to say. You know, I don't know that. I mean, I've always thought that if you're around a guy long enough, you get an idea of the way he route runs. You know, if you put two really good players together, it becomes special because they're two really good players. Whether it's Steve Young and Jerry Rice or Montana, or you get two good players and they're really good players, they kind of figure it all out. And whether it's special and they've got, I don't know. So I guess it is.
Now, the Stanford defense, how would you, what would you say about them?
Well, you know, the one thing about it is they play awfully hard. They chase the ball. They're sound in what they do. I know that's coach speak, but I really mean it now. Sometimes you don't mean it, you say it anyways. But I really think they do a great job of running to the ball. They're physical. They're long. I mean, they're outside linebackers, and the guys that play for them are not, hybrid safeties. They're legit guys, that are bigger, more physical guys. They don't give up a lot of balls over the top. They force you to march down the field. If you're lucky enough to get them in space where you think you've got some pretty good space players, then you've got a chance, But I think they do a great job. I really do. When you watch it, there's a reason beyond how good they are on offense. You don't see it. You see a methodical score. You're watching the film, and it's like, okay, it's 10-3. It's 13-3. It's 17-10. Oh, it's 24-10. Oh, it's 31-10. It's like before you know, you look at the score and they've won by 20 or 30 points. But it never seemed to be. There was a few games there was an onslaught, but it just was a methodical beatdown. And like I said before, I think they do a great job of playing off each other. What they do on offense, running the ball, eating the clock, converting on third downs, scoring touchdowns in the red zone, not turning the ball over, not playing a lot of plays on defense. Okay, multiple looks, playing hard, not giving up big plays. It's a great formula to winning, and they do a great job of that. They play off each other. So, and I really, like I said, it's always interesting because they didn't play Arizona State. Arizona State fits us more from a game plan. Like, we can look at Oregon, but we don't have Derod Thomas. We don't run our quarterback. So you're trying to piece together games that you think of how they would view us, and then what we've done. So it's always fun. That's always the fun part of actually calling it and running it and game planning it with our staff is how are they going to view us and over this amount of time, and they're the same way. How are we going to view them? So
it's you guys do a good job of protecting Wheaton. He doesn't get hit a lot, but they get a lot of pressure on the quarterbacks. They're the top 10 in the country in sacks. Is this kind of a different challenge for the line this year?
Well, it is. I think they do a real good job of scheming up your protections. They do a good job of pressuring your back. So, if they attack your back, who's usually your weakest pass pro guy, or they attack a tight end that's staying in, I think they do a real good job of attacking your schemes. And they've been winning a lot. When you're winning, you're going to get teams that are throwing it and get a chance to create some pressure and do those things. And I just think they're relentless. I think that's one thing about them that you want. They're relentless, that they keep fighting. So even if you're looking at plays where the play gets extended, they get some coverage, they're relentless to the quarterback. So, all that plays into, and they play, and like I said, they're relentless, they play hard. So that adds into their success.
It's interesting what you said. You think if you had an Arizona State Stanford tape, it would have been more helpful to you?
Without question.
Preparation.
Without question. When we played Missouri, Missouri had played early in the year that we had Arizona State game. And so it gave you a little bit, like, again, not that we're exactly how Noel ran and how Arizona State ran it, but it was very similar. So you got at least a little bit of a view of a motion offense, one back with a throwing quarterback. And there was one other game, they played Oklahoma. So we had the Oklahoma game, which was similar to us in just style, brand, how they went about it. So you get a little bit more of an idea of their thought. We don't have that going in. I mean, we do. They played Arizona, which is similar in Washington State, so you get some of those tapes. But ultimately, it'll still come down to doing what we do and doing it the best we can. Because we are who we are now. And a lot of teams you see that are successful, same with Stanford, they believe in certain things and they do it well, just like we are, just like their offense. You don't try to create new things. You just play off of what you do and do it better.
You mentioned the Texas game and maybe how you might have contributed to frustrating Brandon. How did that manifest itself?
Well, we had a certain plan going in the game. They like to play a lot of man, and there were a few calls that put him in a bad spot. We had things built in that we want to take shots down the field. And when you do that and you force that, we were forcing throws down the field, forcing it. And I lended that to the week. Hey, we're going to attack. They want to play man. We're going to get Justin, and we're going to get Hubert, and we're going to get these guys matched up, and we're going to take our shots down the field. Now, could he have done a better job of throwing the dang thing straight and throwing it to him? Yeah, that would have helped in all of our frustration. But he didn't. But the more we did that, the more it put on him the frustration of, I'm not in rhythm. And they can do that. When a team plays man and pressures you some and matches you up, sometimes you don't get all that. So, I added to that. And then there were certain play calls that you look back on. Now, again, there's been other games where I've made those same calls and it didn't turn out that way. It just happened in that game. Some of them kind of went that way, and it frustrated him, And so, you only get it because, like I said, of the hundreds of times we've spoken on the headset, it's one of the rare times in that game where you could sense, like, you're saying something to him and he's biting back. It's like, well, it just he's biting, and you're like, okay, I got to relax here, and we got to calm him down. And the other thing we do at times, I do, is it's hard not to want to put so much on him because he's such a good player and understands where to go with the ball that you end up putting so much on him that Iowa State, we did that. We put way too much on him. We couldn't run the ball, didn't run the ball, and so everything fell in his lap, and so everything weighs down on you, and that's unfair. And so sometimes we end up doing that. So that was one thing we weren't going to do at OU, is put everything on him. And that's the trouble sometimes when you're in a one-back offense, is that you got to be real careful because you get spread out and they have too many in the box and you have to throw it all the time. You're like, well, that's not very good. That puts too much on him.
Todd, how much fun is it to plan for a game like this? It's such a big game. This is your job, but you doing it, we know that you have fun doing it, especially with weapons like Whedon and Blackman.
Well, it's a lot more fun when you have good players. The plans are a lot easier because you can win one-on-one matchups and your quarterback can make all the throws you want to make. There's not a throw. We don't have to look in a game plan with Brandon and say, we can't do this. We don't want to do this. He doesn't throw it as well to his left. He doesn't throw as well to his right. He doesn't throw the deep ball well. There's nothing. And you don't have to always create when you have a guy like Justin and a guy like Josh Cooper and our other guys who can win one-on-one. You don't have to scheme up as often ways to get stacks and motions and move guys to create matchups. So that's what makes it fun. Obviously, it's the fun is when you practice it and you go out and play well. The fun is not in really the preparation. It's how do I want to say this? It's challenging. The challenge that you have of trying to figure out what you do offensively and then do that. But the fun is when it actually works.
So you're not, offensive coordinators aren't like mad scientists back there having fun actually coming up with the formula to do it. You like it when you're actually playing the game and it's happening.
Yeah, it's no fun if you came up with it and then it stinks. Yeah, that's no fun. That's terrible. So the fun is when your guys have success and you're like, okay, we got the look we thought we were going to look. Our guys executed it. We practiced it that way. Fine, that's good. But the fun isn't in the week. The challenge is how to try to keep it small, keep your package tight enough to where your guys can go and execute it. And then you've got enough looks at everything they're going to give you so you're not like, wow, we didn't really practice that. We got kind of stuck. Well, if you have too many of those on a game, you're not any good. If you have too many, like, wow, they kind of gave us that look, we really weren't expecting it, well, then that doesn't lend itself to being very successful.
What does Levy Adcock mean to this team?
I have no idea what he means to this team.
Or what does he mean to your line?
He's a good player, and he's a great kid, fun to be around.
Seems like he's a character a little bit.
He is a character. No, he is that. So, I think he's, I know it's hard to say it with him. He has matured. It's hard to say that when you're around him, but I think he's not only a good player, he's played a couple different spots for us, 2 or 3 spots, and I think he leads more by just being kind of a good guy and kind of, than more of like saying always the right thing. So.
All right. Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it.
Yep.